that is Kate Hardcastle. She's a very pretty, very refined young lady, but she acts as a barmaid in this play for some time because she somehow felt that by doing so, she will know the true nature of the person whom she's going to marry. That's young Marlowe. She discovers that her prospective suitor's true self by, acting as a barmaid. She knows his true colors by doing so. How does she do that? Because, as I said earlier, Marlowe is very comfortable with women of lowly women, like barmaids or working class women, but he is not at all at ease with refined and educated and intellectual women. And Kate happens to see that this person is an introvert, and she somehow doesn't find him appealing when he acts, when he refuses to talk and he acts shy and very introvert. She doesn't really fall in love with him at that point of time. It's later on when Mr. Marlowe mistakes her to be a barmaid, and he becomes very friendly, he becomes at ease, and that's how you will find the change happening. Affectionate daughter she is, as I told you earlier. She'll keep her dad happy, she'll keep her father, Mr. Hardcastle, happy by doing what he likes. For example, wearing simple clothes, conservative tastes. She pleases her father's conservative tastes by dressing up in a very simple manner in the evenings. But in the mornings, she would certainly do what she liked. So she too has two sides of her personality. We come to the most amusing character of Tony Lumpkin. He's a son of Mrs. Hardcastle's by her first marriage, by her first husband. The frailties are shown in different ways. You'll find the Tony Lumpkin, though he belongs to a very good family, he's an ale-drinking youth. He has friends, he makes friends with working class people, very lowly people who visit the ale. He's a very fat, not at all appealing young boy. He is someone who is not at all appealing because he lacks ambition as well. So it's very difficult for a refined girl like Neville Constance to fall in love with him. So he lacks ambition. He makes practical jokes and visits local taverns. He'll make fun of people, and he is not the serious kind, the refined kind, the cultured kind of a gentleman that one would wish to see. But the best part is that he also doesn't like Neville Constance, though his mother is very insistent that they both get married so that they could inherit the property. But he's not at all in love with Neville Constance, and he ensures that they don't marry. George Hastings is Marlowe's friend. He loves Constance Neville. That's one reason why he accompanies young Marlowe when he visits Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle's house. And he hatches a plan to elope with Constance because Mrs. Hardcastle has plans to get Miss Neville married to Tony. And in order to, get hold of his beloved, he hatches a plan. He takes help of Tony. It becomes easier because Tony also doesn't like Neville Constance. He doesn't want to marry her. What does he do? He pleads. He says, "Perish fortune." There's a moment, as I said, when it's necessary, we'll talk about dialogues. This George Hastings, says this when Miss Neville Constance is not willing to elope with him without having taken the casket which has the fortune in it. the inheritance property, the jewelry and everything that she has inherited. So she wants to take that before she elopes with Hastings. And it's difficult because it's in the possession of Mrs. Hardcastle. And therefore, Hastings pleads with her, perish fortune, love and content will increase what we possess. So it's not necessary to have wealth. Materialism is not important according to Constance. Now, Constance Neville, the young comely lady, she loves Hastings. She's an orphan, and it's being a niece of Mrs. Hardcastle. She is the caretaker of Miss Constance Neville. It's an inheritance which is more of interest to Mrs. Hardcastle rather than the niece. So Charles Marlowe is the father. Now these are some of the other characters that you find in this play. So Charles Marlowe, there are servants in the household of Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle. The landlord of the Three Pigeons Ale House is also one such minor character. Then these are some of Tawny's drinking companions who are known as first fellow, second fellow, third fellow, and fourth fellow. Can we now look at few of the themes that Oliver Goldsmith has tried to touch upon in this comedy that he has written? He talks about class bias. He talks about love that ignores social boundaries, and that's very important for Oliver Goldsmith to break the class consciousness of the people of England, and therefore he deliberately brought in these characters. Now, Marlowe falling for a barmaid, you will find Kate is in disguise. She's dressed up as a barmaid, and Marlowe mistakes her to be a barmaid, and he falls in love with her. As I said earlier, he's at ease with women from, working class or lowly women. So now the other theme that he has touched upon is that there's a hope for flawed humility. People are not perfect. You look at any of these characters, you'll find a lot of imperfections in each one of them. But still there is the hope for, a flawed humility. You have to be humble. Money breeds indolence. That is the theme. That with money, you become proud. Climax occurs when Kate reveals her true identity while Hardcastle and Sir Charles listen behind the screen. So it is only when towards the end of the play that you'll find that Kate reveals her true identity to Marlowe, and this conversation is overheard by Hardcastle and Sir Charles Marlowe. Can we now look at the action of the play? How the play begins and how it proceeds. In Act 1, you will find that it's Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle waiting for Marlowe's arrival, and how Tawny plays a practical prank joke with Hastings and Marlowe, and how they misled Hastings and Marlowe. They misled to believe that Hardcastle's house is an old inn. The second act, you will find that it complicates the plot further. So it already started the complications. Now it's becoming more complicated, and the plot thickens as we see. Young men, they are impertinent and rude with Mr. Hardcastle. Why? Because they do not know that this is Mr. Hardcastle. They think that he is the innkeeper, and they do not like the way that the innkeeper is, behaving with them. So they are also, on the other hand, being very rude with him. And when he sees that his friend's son is behaving so rudely, he's so impertinent, Hardcastle gets very shocked. Constance finds Hastings and reveals Tawny's prank. It's later on in the second act. You'll find that Constance is very happy that Hastings has arrived, her beloved has arrived. And then she reveals Tawny's prank. She says that, see, this is not an inn, as Tawny has played a prank with you. And at least Hastings comes to know. But then they decide that they hide the truth about Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle's identity from Marlowe and let the prank continue. So Marlowe, hidden from the truth by Hastings and Neville, that they decided that they will not disclose the reality. And they decide to get the jewels and elope together. It's here in this act that they decide that, see, we'll run away, but not without the casket. Marlowe's exaggerated timidity to modest women is shown here, is displayed here. He's very lively and hearty with lowly women. So the true character of Marlowe is displayed, is exhibited in this act. Now, Tawny and Hastings become friends because they have the same. Tawny wants to get rid of Neville Constance, and Hastings wants to elope with her. So it suits their purpose, and therefore they hatch a plan. Tawny doesn't wish to marry Constance, and therefore he helps even in stealing the jewels from his mother's, possession, and he tries to get rid of his mother's pressure of marrying Neville. In the third act, you will find that Hardcastle is shocked at Marlowe's impertinence, and Kate, disappointed with Marlowe's modesty. She finds that Marlowe is very modest, and he doesn't talk. He's an introverted fellow, and she's very disappointed with him. She doesn't fall for him. And Hardcastle, at the same time, is shocked at Marlowe's kind of rude behavior. So you'll find that both father and daughter do not approve of Marlowe. In the third act, Tawny steals the jewels. Somehow he manages to get hold of the jewels, and he asks his mother to pretend that they were stolen. He actually asks his mother to pretend that it's stolen, but actually it's been stolen by him. The revelation comes later. Kate's assurance to her father about Marlowe being respectful and lively. You will find that the father is not happy with Marlowe, but now she wants to tell, she wants to reveal. She assures her father that Marlowe is very respectful and lively and not as he believes. Dressed in a plain dress, she attracts Marlowe's attention. Now, it's as a barmaid, when she acts as a barmaid, she comes in the disguise of a barmaid. She is loved by Marlowe. He falls in love with her, and Hardcastle observes this. In the fourth act, the plot appears to be falling apart. News of Sir Charles' arrival comes in the fourth act. It will reveal Hastings' identity. Now, till then, Mr. Hardcastle is in the dark. He doesn't know. Everything is being exposed now. It's exposition, as you can call it. And he comes to know that Hastings' identity and that he is in love with his beloved Neville. They also question Kate and Marlowe about marriage plans. So it's here that the crucial moment happens, where whether they are really going to marry or not, whether they like each other or not. Hastings sends jewels to Marlowe for safekeeping, but then Marlowe is confused and he hands over the casket to Mrs. Hardcastle. Marlowe's impertinence forces Mr. Hardcastle to kick him out of the house. He's been so ruthless and rude that Mr. Hardcastle cannot tolerate his kind of behavior. Now, Kate pretends to be a poor relation to the Hardcastles. Marlowe falls for her now, but leaves her as it would be unacceptable to Charles. This happens in the fourth act. He is not very sure whether his father would allow him to marry Kate. The letter from Hastings and elopement plan and angry Dorothy insists Constance be taken far away. So how do they manage? Marlowe, Hastings, and Tony, they confront each other, anger over all the deceits that leads to an argument. Tony but assures them that everything will be resolved because he was the one who had started the problem. Now in Act 5, you will find the climax. Now it's going to end the play, and truth is revealed, happiness prevails. Arrival of Sir Charles, and along with Hastings, they laugh at young Marlowe's confusion because he's still confused. He doesn't know that the lady whom he had met is Kate. So Marlowe's arrival, he apologizes because he was rude with his father's friend Hardcastle. Marlowe admits that he's barely spoken to Kate. He says he doesn't know Kate because he has already fallen for the barmaid. And he doesn't know that about the mistaken identity. He's still ignorant. Hardcastle accuses him of lying. He says, no, I found you talking. You are in love with my daughter, and now you say that you are lying. You're not. So Kate's arrival after Marlowe leaves the room and convinces older men to reveal the full truth. Asks the old men to watch from a hidden vantage behind a screen. And it's as they hide behind the screen, they find that Marlowe and Kate are in love with each other. So the true feelings are revealed here. Hastings waits in the garden. Now what Tony had done was he had tried to drive the mother, Mrs. Hardcastle, and Constance away. And they believe that they traveled, around 40 to 50 miles away from the house. But actually the carriage was moving round and round the mansion of Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle. So they were still there where they were. Mrs. Hardcastle thinks they have left home far behind. But actually, distraught and scared of the highwaymen, she comes out. She thinks she doesn't know that she is still in her own garden. And it is not a highwayman, but it's Mr. Hardcastle. Hastings and Constance decide to appeal for mercy and drops elopement plan. They now think that there's no point in elopement, so it's better to talk and get things sorted out. Tony's actual age is revealed, decides not to marry Constance, and permission is granted. Now, the mistakes of a night.